Saturday is Hambletonian Day, and we brought along a nice expert here to talk about the races for Saturday. We have Jay Bergman joining us. I'm in the DRF studios. Jay's in a remote location somewhere, but he'll be at the Hambletonian on Saturday at the Meadowlands. And how you doing, Jay?
Doing great, Derek. This looks like one of the best Hambletonian days I can remember.
Yeah, we have a great 16-race card. We'll have all the action for you live on DRF Harness Live. We'll be doing real-time analysis and commentary throughout the day. We have a special DRF Bets bonus, 5% exotic rebate. So bet those exotic bets, you get 5% of your money back for what you play. We're going to look at the Hambletonian, and starts in race number 8. It's the first elimination, a $100,000 elimination. And it's a pretty strong field here of 9 horses. Before we get to the favorites, what I'd like to do is look at one of the maybe mid-price horses in Crystal Fashion. We're going to take a look at the replay of victory last week in the Reynolds, and it was a pretty impressive score coming from, right now he's the number 6 horse coming from 3rd over and really uncorks a furious, turn of speed down the stretch. It was a really impressive win, Jay.
I thought that they were just looking to give him an easy race, and the way Tim Tetrick drove him, you said, well, I could beat this field no matter what I do, and obviously at the wire you could see he could beat the field no matter what he did, and I think it was an exceptional prep race for a horse that needed to start over the track.
The morning line favorite in this field is Wolfgang, number 5. Yannick Gringo is going to drive, trying to finally, pick up his Hambletonian win after some disappointments in recent years. Trainer's Jimmy Takter. Is he the one to beat in this field?
I would say he's likely the one to beat, but I think there's a lot of talent here. Certainly in the filly Atlanta and the aforementioned Crystal Fashion. I think the thing with Wolfgang that's difficult right now, and I kind of allude to maybe thoroughbred form, he hasn't really raced against anybody. I mean, it's been like a prep race and a prep race, and now we're going to find out what he really is made of.
In some respects, can't we say the same thing about Atlanta? She's faced state-bred foes. She hasn't really taken on any of the open foes either.
I absolutely agree with you, Derek. I just think that, you're looking in this Hambletonian, 18 horses in there, and like I said, the Kentucky Derby parallel is that they don't really race against each other. They do a lot of training, they do a lot of prepping and qualifying, racing in stakes, sire stakes races, but not necessarily against each other. And now it's an open book, and we're saying who's the best at doing it this way. I mean, the former way was racing every week and racing against the same horses and hoping you were the sharpest on Hambletonian Day, but now it's like, okay, I'll prep by myself and let's see how sharp we can be.
One of the interesting things in this particular elimination is you have the 3 Metz Hole and the 4 Lawmaker, 2 horses that tend to go to the lead, Lawmaker being very fast off the gate, and they're inside of Wolfgang and Atlanta, 2 horses you would think want to be forwardly placed.
I think, Wolfgang will be forwardly placed. I'm not so sure Atlanta will be forwardly placed. I mean, I think that you have to remember this is a 2-heat race, but not a 2-heat race that you need to win the first heat. Obviously, post position could be important in the second heat, but making the second heat and being sharp for the second heat, I think, is nearly as important. And I think Atlanta, as a filly, I think the worst thing for her would be to get involved in any kind of speed duel in the first heat and maybe wear herself out a little bit.
So where do you stand in the first elimination? Who did you go with?
I went with Atlanta basically because she just looks the part of an exceptionally great horse. I think the connections, Rick Zeron and his son Scott, certainly know what's out there. Scott having won the Hambletonian before, Rick not having won it, but obviously has prepped horses for big races and been very successful. So I think they know what they have, and she seems exceptional. Wolfgang seems like a very honest, good horse, but I don't know if he's that much better than he was last year, or he's just been fortunate to be in situations thus far. We'll find out more on Saturday.
I agree. We'll definitely find out more on Saturday. I went the opposite of you. I was between Wolfgang and Atlanta in this field, and I ended up going with Wolfgang because I think he will be more forwardly placed of the 2. I'd rather have the horse that's going to be on the lead than the horse trying to track him down, especially on an afternoon racing. We know how prominent speed is. So I went the other way than you, but I certainly respect Atlanta in this field.
Listen, I obviously, like I said, I almost just gave you the run up to that by telling you that I think Atlanta will be coming from behind. But if you're right in your first sense that there'll be speed going, other than Wolfgang will be entering the fray, maybe that will soften up Wolfgang or soften up a few of the horses on the front end.
Perhaps, we'll see. We're going to move on to race number 9, which is the second Hambletonian elimination, also going for $100,000. The top 5 in each elimination will come back for race number 13, which is the $1 million Hambletonian final. In this race, the favorite is pretty obvious. There will be no questions here. It'll be number 9, Six Pack, and we're going to take a look at his victory last time out in the Stanley Dancer, and he spent a lot of time on the rim, and this horse just kept on chugging. He doesn't give up at all.
The question really is, how good is this horse? He was phenomenal in this event, and driving him right to the wire. I mean, you could just see the power the horse has.
Yeah, he seems to just be capable of going on and on and on. We see he's the 2-to-1 morning line favorite. I'm certain he's going to be much lower than that. Is post 9 going to be a problem for him? We've already seen, him almost overcome post 9 in the Beal. He overcame post 8 in the Dancer. It doesn't seem like the adversity gets to this horse.
The adversity is one thing, but I think the stakes are a little different this time around, and there is enough inside speed. The whole situation, or getting a hole, is likely not to be found in the Hambletonian elimination, where it might be found, in a Dancer prep where he walked into an easy 4-hole and then was able to come first up. So I think that's the real question about Six Pack is he going to be subjected to a 3-wide, 4-wide first turn situation where that first turn or a 26 and change first quarter going 3 and 4 wide will be the kind of thing that softens him up. That's my feeling that what could happen to him here.
Let's talk about the early speed that you just mentioned. Could a horse like Classic Chap leave in this spot? Alarm Detector certainly leaving. And what do we make of Fourth Dimension at this point?
I don't know. I can't make much of Fourth Dimension other than the fact that probably just go to the front and see what he can make out of that, unless he's just not himself. But I'm really focused on Alarm Detector. To be honest, I think here's a horse that hasn't had a chance to be given his due yet. A connection in the Baillargeon team that has been very, very, very formful when they come to the Meadowlands. And I think that this horse in the Dancer showed the kind of talent that he has. Maybe it was a test run for Trevor Henry and to see where do we stand, what do we need to do for this horse to get him right for the Hambletonian. And I think that test was a very good test. It was a 3rd place finish, a world record mile. No disgrace in losing there. I think it just showed that he has the speed and he has the class to go with these horses. Now I think he has the post position.
I actually think Alarm Detector is certainly moving in the right direction. I didn't make him my top selection in here, but he's making progress. A couple of the other ones in here, Tactor has 2 in here, and Tactical Landing, and You Do. What do you make of these 2? I know you spoke to Jimmy earlier this week.
I'm a little concerned. The post position is not in their favor, and I don't think, given what we've already spoken about, which is Six Pack, obviously going to the front, the question is, how fast is Six Pack getting around both of the Tactor horses? And I think that's the danger for both Tactor horses is I don't think they're the handiest at the start of the race. They've shown that they have the ability. They've shown that they can go the 50 or 50 and change mile necessary, but this one's going to be a tough one for them to overcome with a draw.
So you went with Alarm Detector in this particular division. I went with Six Pack. I'm kind of chalking it up, but I really feel like he's the best horse in this race. I think he's shown that it doesn't really matter if he's on the outside or not. He's shown that no matter what, if Oki just keeps hitting him with the whip, he just keeps going. And for my money, I think he's the best horse in this race, though I do respect Alarm Detector, and I actually chose Alarm Detector second in my selections.
Well, thanks for that respect, but like I said, I just feel that the 9-hole it was a real problem for him at Pocono. There will be pressure here. I don't think it's going to be a easy trip, and I think that if the horse is going to get beat, they're going to rough him up, and I'm hoping the roughing up happens early. I think if Six Pack gets the lead in the first quarter without much difficulty, I think it's his race to win.
All right, let's move on to the Hambletonian Oaks $500,000 race. It's race number 12 on the program. Obviously, we see the horses up there. Manchego is likely to be the favorite. She is the morning line favorite at 5-2. Does Manchego win the Hambletonian Oaks?
In my opinion, she does. I honestly believe that, cutting a 49 and 4 mile and getting beat by a nose is certainly no disgrace. And I think we have a situation here where it's Yannick Gingras against Akis Fonstedt and Tron Smetshammer. And, for bettors out there who've watched Yannick progress over time, he's light years ahead of those two guys as far as driving, and he's not driving, a slouch horse. He's driving a champion horse in this race, and I think decision making is a major factor when you have the quality that we have in this race, and I think he's got the right position post 4, and I think he'll be able to make the better decisions of the 3.
Was Plunge Blue Chip's mile 49-4 2 weeks ago just like a flash, or is that something you think we could see again?
I think, a lot of these horses, and the horsemen will tell you over and over again, they're better chasing than they are on the front end. And I think Plunge Blue Chip, I think she proved that. She was much better chasing. Last week's mile, you would have said, well, she's crawling around the track. How are they going to stop her? I think it was basically, maybe it was a little bit of a bounce, which might be fortunate for Sponstead that the horse bounced last week and not this week. But I think, she may be in a position here where she could work out a trip, and the trip behind Manchego might be to her advantage on Saturday.
I actually went with Phaetosive in this race. Obviously, I concede that Yannick is a much better driver than Trond. I think Phaetosive could win despite Trond. As long as Trond doesn't make a mistake in the race, I think she might be sharp enough and good enough right now to, as you said, come from off the pace, even uncovered, and wear her down like Plunge Blue Chip did to Manchego a couple of weeks back.
There's no question. I think if you didn't see the draw and if you just saw the eliminations last week, you had to look at Phaetosive as just a powerhouse horse that just looks the part of a world-class horse. I think, certainly Smetshammer, from my conversations with him, believes she's every bit the horse of anything out there. And I couldn't, you have to agree, given what you saw last week on the racetrack. Again, first over, I still think this horse is going to have to be so superb and so much better than the other two to win first over. And I'm not so sure she's that much better. She might be better.
Well, we looked at the Hambletonian, we looked at the Hambletonian Oaks. There's 16 races on the card. Is there any other race that you're, looking forward to seeing, or any other horse you're really looking forward to playing on the card?
Well, there's a horse called Piranha Fury that didn't make it into the Hambletonian Oaks. She didn't make it into it because she was in a ridiculous spot coming from well back, and Brian Sears was driving her for Nifty Norman. And she was ready to kick home in about 26 or 25 seconds when she made a break in mid-stretch. And I was like, sometimes you catch something in your eye and you say, well, wow. I mean, the horse had no chance. She was really trotting out of her skin. It's a break on the program, which people look at breaks and they throw, they don't like that. They go against it. So I'm going for her. I think she showed some talent in Pennsylvania Sire Stakes, and I think she's a 20 to 30 to 1 bomb.
Piranha Fury is in race number 3. It's the Frank Zanzucchi. She is number 7 in the field. It's a great day of racing. I'm sure you're looking forward to it. I know I am. We're going to have all the action live on Harness Live. Like I said, take advantage of our special Hambletonian Day 5% rebate on exotic wagers, and you can get free Harness IPPs if you just visit drf.com/harness. We'll have everything you need for the Hambletonian. Thanks for joining us, Jay.
Great to be here.